Okay, well, we're gonna get started here. Hi everyone. My name is Martino Diarte. I am the Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator. A lot of words to just say. I'm the person that says hi everyone, officially for the Alliance. This is our first community conversation of the year, and is a important one in my opinion, and it's probably an important one for you guys as well. That's why we have 35 participants in the moment in the waiting room, or not in the waiting room, but in the chat. So I'm going to keep it short here so that way we can pass it over to these folks here so they can introduce themselves and they can get all the information out to us. Um, the only thing I wanted to mention is that Education in Action has a survey out right now. We're just wanting to learn a little bit more about work-based learning from everybody. So you'll see a link in the chat here. And if you're watching this later on, you'll see a link somewhere in the description. If you guys can take a couple of minutes to fill out that survey, let us know some information that you can pass along. That'd be great. Other than that, I'm going to pass it off to Amber and step off.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend this talk today. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're coming in from. So my name is Amber, and I'm the on-site academic coordinator at the University of Baltimore's Second Chance College program, and I'm also going to be the moderator for today's session. All of us here have been associated with the program in varying capacities, either as a student, a staff member, and/or a student worker. So the program started in 2016 at a Maryland maximum security prison. The program aims to provide incarcerated individuals with the opportunity to pursue higher education while inside, with a clear pathway to continue their studies on campus after release. The program equips students with the knowledge and skills essential for personal growth and successful reintegration into society. Upon release, the University of Baltimore offers a supportive environment where students can seamlessly transition back to campus, continuing their education and thriving in the community. The Second Chance program emphasizes the humanity and needs of its students by offering reentry resources, such as bus passes, work-study opportunities, access to the on-campus food pantry, and much more. So now I'm going to have the panelists each introduce themselves. Kelly, if you want to take it away.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Gilliss. I'm about to graduate with my MBA here in a few months from the University of Baltimore. Definitely been a long road, but like right now, I work as a contractual employee with the University of Baltimore doing IT support, and mainly I do tier one to tier two user support, helping people figure out their tech problems, and kind of ironic 'cause I did the same thing while I was incarcerated, helping people with tech problems. But yeah, I spent about 10 years incarcerated, and while I was incarcerated, I helped to start the University of Baltimore Second Chance program in 2016. And a few years later, I became a student in the program, and I'm still a student, about to be finished. So great to be here.
Thank you, Kelly. Mike.
So hi, my name is Michael. I started the Second Chance program in 2019 while incarcerated. I transitioned back into society roughly a year and a half ago. When I did transition, I worked on campus in the Career Center. I did graduate last May with a Bachelor's of Art degree in Human Service Administration. Currently, I'm enrolled in the University of Baltimore's Nonprofit Management and Social Entrepreneurship Master's Program. I can honestly say I'm appreciative for this opportunity. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. And then just in time, Mr. Thomas Anderson, would you like to introduce
Perfect.
yourself?
Hello, yes, my name is Thomas Anderson. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I was previously incarcerated for 22 and a half years. I started my academic career while incarcerated in 2017. I've since been released in 2019, obtained my bachelor's degree in real estate economic development / business science in 2023, and I'm presently working on my master's degree in nonprofit management / social entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So let's get right into it. So our first question is going to be a general question. What does placing humanity first mean to you?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Well,
Okay.
placing humanity first is about recognizing a person's dignity. It's about recognizing their worth in every person, regardless of their past. It's about being able to see a person beyond their record. And yes, I was locked up, but that don't mean I should be locked out of the opportunities that could possibly prevent me from being locked up again. You know, it's about being able to focus on a person's potential rather than their mistakes. When I first went to prison, I saw prison as a place where potential goes to die. But then when I realized that there's a great deal of people that's incarcerated that have a great deal of potential, and I was one of them. And when I realized that, I started to pursue my potential. And so being able to be looked at as human, it really means a great deal to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like it means that like with this whole program, it's like you're not just a student. It's like they're not just worried about like your grades. It's like the University of Baltimore, they're concerned with with everything going on in your life. Yeah, they don't just focus on your academic process. They care about your whole journey. And even after being home for about 2 years, I mean, I'm sitting in the University of Baltimore right now, and I still see people every day that were there at the beginning, in one form or another. And I was like, I still have connections, people I've met, over 10 years ago with the University of Baltimore. I'm still talking to today, and I was always offered guidance and like the humanity part. It's like it was always made known that like no professor or no anyone has ever been like, well, what'd you do? Why'd you get, why were you incarcerated? But nobody's ever asked that question. They just taken me as I am as a person. And that's the biggest thing to me.
So putting humanity first to me means, essentially seeing humanity in me. And I think University of Baltimore is, they live the example of that. As Cali does now, I once worked on campus in the Career Center. When I worked there, no one treated me as if I was formally incarcerated. They treated me as if I was a human being, just a normal worker. In fact, many of them, once they found out I was associated with the Second Chance program, they were kind of shocked. But overall, I was treated well. And I think putting humanity first just means seeing a person in their totality, because oftentimes we label people. An individual will have done something in the past and we label them that, but that's not really what we are. We are more than that. We multidimensional. Everyone has made a mistake, and unfortunately, some of us have, and we're moving beyond that. We deserve a second chance, and this program has given us that. And that's to me, that's what putting humanity first is.
Thank you guys so much. So what are some barriers that you faced when transitioning back into society, and how did you overcome them?
I can start with that. So one of the barriers I faced coming out was just anxiety, a lot of anxiety, because I remember, for one thing, I was so happy to be free, but then I remember standing on a corner having to cross the street, and the anxiety, because I hadn't done that in so long. I would say anxiety. Another barrier I would say would be when I did transition. Prior to transitioning, I had done a lot of work, like trying to prepare as far as doing reentry and things like that, preparing me to have my documents, birth certificate, social security card, and things like that, medical insurance. However, when I transitioned, I found that I had none of that. So again, University of Baltimore helped me to point me in the right direction to be able to get my documents and things like that. Because honestly, I mean, they gave me $50, and they basically dropped me on the street and they said, go, find your way. So that was, again, it was a barrier not having those documents. I had saved money from working, but I was unable to access it because it was in check form. And if I don't have my ID and my documents, then I couldn't do it. So that was one of the barriers. That was one of the many barriers that I faced. However, now I've overcome them barriers with the help of Kelly, members of the program. I now have my driver's license. I'm gainfully employed, and I'm just tremendously appreciative.
As I remember when like when Michael came home, Dr. Cantor reached out to me and said, "Yeah, Mike's in the library." I was like, "What?" I was like, but that's where you came. It's like you didn't know where to go, but you found your way to U-Ball. You found your way to the school. So that was nice. But for myself, from some barriers I faced, I think just realizing that like I'm just another person that like my incarceration doesn't define me, and like I don't lead with that when I meet people like when I first came home. It was like on a Thursday, and then like the following like Monday or Tuesday, I started classes on campus in person, and we had to do an icebreaker of like, like a new class, whatever, where you from, da da da, and of course I was like, oh, I just got out of prison, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, but I knew the professor, so the professor had taught me while I was incarcerated. So, but she was a little upset about that. But but in saying that, like people were really welcoming, and like everybody in the class, oh, that's great, and they're really helpful. And but now it's like I don't have to say that to people. I don't have to, lead with that. 'Cause I'm just another person. I'm just another student, just another employee, whatever. And like Michael was saying about the anxiety stuff, that's definitely there. Like, I always like tech stuff and coming home and having access to all the stuff. It's like almost like information overload, and you have to kind of just like slow down. Like you don't have to get everything done in a day. It's like just slow down and take your time and get things done. And another barrier, I mean, not so much of a barrier, but I guess employment in IT, because I never had like formal IT training, so that coupled with having like a criminal background, it's like people are told me don't go for cybersecurity, don't for these kind of jobs. Like a lot of IT jobs, they want like security clearances, and I know you can kind of get those even with a criminal background, but it's kind of like dissuaded me from pursuing certain fields in IT. And but it was less of a barrier because like getting a job because University of Baltimore got me a job while I was still incarcerated. So when I came home, I had a job as a student working on campus. So that was a big thing too that really helped me a lot.
Well, for me, as you may have noticed by my lateness, is the digital gap that exists. Even to this day, I've been out for 5 years. But a major hurdle or barrier for me was employment. When I first came home, I went through a workforce development program, and I was able to get a part-time job. Um, and I also worked on work study at the University of Baltimore. But I had a family, and one of the things that I felt was necessary was for me to stand up as a man and be financially responsible for the household that I was living in. Neither one of those two salaries could bring me in enough money
Hmm.
to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and contribute to the household and provide for my daily needs. So what I did to overcome that barrier, I figured, okay, nobody would give me a job, so I'll create my own job. And so I went with my little bit of money to Home Depot. I bought me a lawnmower and I started cutting grass. And that one season turned into, by season 3, I had over 100 clients that I was taking care of that enabled me
That's
to be
nice.
able to work my way through school and not be so worried about my financial situation. So people were, even to this day, I only have a part-time job. It seems like people just don't want to give me an opportunity to be able to show my worth. But I've proven my worth to myself, and I won't let that obstacle stand in my way.
Thank you. So technology has been mentioned quite a bit here. Kelly, this question is for you. What role does technology play in preparing returning citizens for academic and career success, and how can we bridge that digital divide?
I mean, like, it's like technology is like everywhere, and I mean, while I was incarcerated, like only through the second chance program do we have access to laptops and, like Microsoft Office, like Word and Excel, and be able to print. But like we never had like email or like the internet or like cell phones. I mean, they don't, those things are not allowed for, for some obvious reasons, but and I think the second chance program is starting to work with tablets and get a different kind of system going, but it's like without having that technology, and like Tom was saying, Thomas, I'm glad you made it too, because I didn't have enough to talk about, so I'm glad you made it in here. But but like that technology, like people have to know how to do these things, because imagine you have a job interview and you never sent an email before, and you're just coming home and they're like, oh yeah, sign on to Zoom, we're going to give you an interview and da da da, and you're like, it's like you're completely lost. And I understand there's reasons why they don't have those, in facilities, but something has to be done to prepare people, because people are at an extreme disadvantage coming home and not having that stuff every day, because it's like people are I mean, like Thomas, like for decades, you didn't have a cell phone. You know what I mean? For decades, you're never on a computer, never on the internet. And so imagine that, and having to compete in today's workforce, but not having the experience of using a cell phone, So it's like it's a big divide, and that would really help people coming home some type of way to get people used to those kind of things.
Yeah. Even
I would
just
like
today, I
to
was
add,
talking with a student. Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to add to that. Yes, that is one of the things I think that is crucial, even though I understand security concerns when it comes to having this sort of technology. Um, Before an individual transitions, it's absolutely imperative that they have access to some of these technologies with the tablets, et cetera, be able to access the different remote working things and things like that, like
Hmm.
Zoom, Teams, because I remember getting on campus and working in an office, and I'm like, what is Teams? So I had to learn Teams. But fortunately, my being at the University of Baltimore, I was able to have access to Zoom, Teams, and I actually learned from experience and actually being on campus. So, but again, many of us who are transitioning into society don't have that opportunity. So we're like handicapped. So there needs to be something done in that regards.
Even just today, I was talking with a student about the importance of an email signature and a professional email signature.
Hmm.
Putting your name at the bottom, putting your accomplishments. So technology and the digital divide is drastic. Are you guys currently pursuing a career path that you considered while being incarcerated?
I can answer that. So yes, I am pursuing, actually currently I work for a nonprofit in the Baltimore area. Um, I somewhat like a program director where I help individuals with their getting a vehicle so that they can have economic opportunities outside of the city. Because most of the time in many urban areas, the jobs that would pay people with certain skill sets and education are located in the suburbs. So basically, yes, I work in the field in which I decided to do when I was incarcerated, and that's human services. Again, my degree is in human service administration. I love helping people, and it gives me the ability to do that.
I'll go. Yes, I am. I always wanted to help people. Even when I was out there doing wrong, I was helping people in my doing wrong. It's a part of my nature and my nurture, because I was raised in that regard. But I didn't know how I would take that level of empathy and compassion that I have for people and utilize it in a way that was profitable for all parties. But it was while I was incarcerated that I actually figured out what my purpose was, you know, and I come to understand that my purpose is wrapped up in 3 areas of my life, and that is my pain, my past, and my passion. And in looking at those 3 areas of my life, I was able to find what my purpose actually was. And being able to pursue that while incarcerated, I remember the first assignment that Dr. Cantor gave us in the enrichment program, the non-accredited program, was write a business plan, write something that you would like to do. And it was the seedling of what it is that I'm doing now, not realizing that that was what was going to be watered and grow and now cause me to produce fruit. And that's where the Manumission House was birthed out of.
And also, well, as well, I'm working in a career that I want to be in. So I'm working in IT, and like with the University of Baltimore, like my bachelor's degree was in human services administration, which I have to admit I wasn't really interested in, but I wanted to get a college degree. And but by taking those courses in that program, I learned, empathy, and I learned like emotional intelligence, and I learned like how to recognize issues that other people are having and how that relates to me. And then it's like in that program, I was like helping people, learn how to use a laptop, learn how to use office products, things like that. So it's like I'm kind of doing the same thing out here, but on a higher level. And it's definitely helped me. That the thing about working at U-Ball is it's they have a little bit of everything, and everybody's always willing to show you something. Everybody's always willing to help you out. Like we have a whole bunch of different departments within the IT department, and everybody is always like available. You need something, like you want to learn something, you need something done, they're willing to show you. So it's just it's really helpful. It's just kind of like a strange path of getting to it, but U-Ball has definitely helped in the whole way to get into the career field I want to be in.
So there's a comment in the chat about housing, which actually leads us into a really good question. So Thomas, why is housing so important in supporting academic success and successful reentry? And can you mention a little bit about your Manumission housing?
I'm about to get excited because this is my life's purpose. But let me start by saying housing is the foundation. Without it, everything else, whether it's school, work, or mental health, is secondary, right? So when you look at Maryland's recidivism rate, it's 40%. And you look at the national average of providing conducive housing, it reduces the recidivism rate by 40%. That's no coincidence. Those two numbers are linked together. And so housing plays an intricate role in lowering the recidivism rate. Now, stable housing allows justice-impacted people to be able to focus on their long-term goal versus having to go through the daily survival kit of figuring out where they can lay their head at. Now, the Manumission House. The Manumission House is I live and breathe it. I'm in love with it. I wake up every morning thinking about it. All throughout the day, I think about it. Even at night before I go to sleep, it's the last thing on my mind. The Manumission House is residential housing for people who are presently incarcerated, making their transition out to society and wanting to continue their academic career. And so we provide the residential housing plus the support for them to be able to acclimate back into, assimilate back into society. Workforce development pieces, mental health piece, weekly reentry support groups, case management, FAFSA center, and the list goes on and on. And we are getting ready to purchase the building. I am so excited about this. We are getting ready to purchase the building. We were able to obtain a grant with the help of the University of Baltimore. And this is going to be a magnificent venture. This is going to be my legacy. I don't have any children, so I can't pass my legacy down that way. My legacy will be passed down through the lives that I'm able to help through the creation of the Manumission House. And while I majored in real estate and economic development, I always said I didn't want my name on buildings. I'd rather have my name on the edifice of people's heart. You know, I want to be able to make a difference in people. That's where the real investment need to take place. And that's what the Manumission House is all about.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for your giving back and paying it forward. So general question, were there any challenges during reentry that you wish you could have been better prepared for during your release?
I'll take that one. I'll say.
Yeah, I've talked too much.
But I think just I mean the transportation thing, like thankfully, you know, I thank God that I had a supportive family there and that they could take me to places I had to go to because it's like when you leave prison, you're like, oh yeah, and by the way, within 24 hours, you got to report to the parole officer, probation officer, whatever. And it's like, if you don't have that prepared already, you don't have some way to get there. So it's like, how are you going to get there? You know, how are you going to get here, get there? And so they'd be better prepared for that. And it's just kind of realizing that, you know, you do have a big support group, you do have a big support network. And I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm still kind of hesitant to trust people. I still like being being incarcerated. It's like you always view others as to what's their ulterior motive, like what are they really trying to get? Like, if somebody offers help, it's like you're suspicious of that help, and it's kind of for your own, like it's like a defense mechanism, but because I still kind of have that sometimes here, and it's kind of been a challenge for me, but just accepting that people are good just because they're good people, you know, that's something that don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good people that are incarcerated, and I was helped out by a lot of good people while I was incarcerated. But like your mind is always on that, like you're tense and you're always like worried about something's going to happen. You're always just like preparing yourself for anything's going to happen, and kind of just being able just to kind of relax and like just enjoy things and just sit back and be like, you know, like I'm home now. It's like look at where I am and just take everything in, everything around you, because thinking of where you were and where you are now, it's a big difference. And that was kind of a challenge for me, just kind of just to soak things in and just sit back and relax and just enjoy.
Oh, Mike, you're on mute.
Sorry. I think one of the challenges for me, that I think one of the things could have made me better prepared is just, again, the technology piece, not having access to technology. And another thing I can say about technology too is being overwhelmed, because I remember being at work, notifications on my cell phone are going off because of email, text. Then we have multiple emails. You got your work email, you have your personal email, you have your school email, you have your family and friends who are texting you. And it's like all these different stimulations. It was a challenge for me to having to deal with that. Time management. Even now, I still struggle with time management, because when you're in that situation, you pretty much, your day is planned out a priori. So you pretty much 3 meals a day. You know, I knew at 5:30 I had to go to UB. I knew at 5 o'clock in the morning I had to be able to go to work. Well, now, I mean, not saying that I can't do these things, but it's just more challenging. It's like, it's just more challenging. But I mean, so far I've been doing pretty good. I still struggle with it, the technology and trying to manage my time with between class and things like that. I would say that's one of my challenges.
If I can answer briefly what my greatest challenge was, I would say it was about relationships. The dynamics of relationships while incarcerated is vastly different from relationships out here in society. And when I came home, I'm blessed enough to be married, but when I came home, we had a great deal of struggle to try to get on the same page. You know, I felt like I've had authority over me all of my life. I mean, all of this time, I'm not coming home for you to be another warden over me, you know,
Mm.
but I failed to understand that we as husband and wife are to be accountable to one another. You know, I didn't want to be accountable. I wanted to be able to do what I want when I wanted. And but I was responsible for her and she was responsible for me. And so there was constant, you know, back and forth, you know. And so what I would do is I would begin to isolate myself. And that's one of the worst things a person can do when coming home from prison. Isolating yourself, thinking that nobody understands, you know, and it's not about them, it's about you. You know, you have to look inside of you and figure out, why is it that this relationship is struggling? Why am I by myself in the basement, you know, when I could be watching TV? Why don't I like my wife to touch me? You know, all of those different things. Why, when it comes to meeting new people, do I have this sense of insecurity, feeling less than or inadequate? You know, so it's all about relationships. That was very, very challenging for me.
Thank you guys for sharing. So with the nature of my job, as I've seen some of you, I've been able to meet you guys on the inside and both on the outside. And I've been able to see kind of the bonds that have been forged both in the classroom, behind the walls, but also just here on campus and out in the world. A few of our guys have started putting together kind of peer groups on Saturdays and just random days checking in with each other. I know that there's group chats. Thomas, you specifically have kind of taken on a mentorship role, as some of the guys have seen and talked about the cool watches and gifts. So could you guys all kind of talk about, you know, peer support that you've gotten from your fellow students through the program?
Yeah, I'll say it's just about like being around each other and just kind of like I think the other day I was leaving work and like Bobby was there and then like Thomas walked up out of nowhere and then somebody else came. So it was like a reunion. It was like 5 or 6 of us out there and we're just like, whoa, this is I was like, what, you know, so just having people around and you're like, wow, it's like, you know, it's like, look at us, look at what we're doing now. You know what I mean? These people have no idea what we've been through, but look at what we're doing. And it's just having that, you know, people around you and having that type of support and just things like this, talking about like Tom was talking about relationships and you know, those things make sense. Like, you don't think that's like you might be feeling these things, but when somebody else says it, like you really realize that's going on. And I say, Thomas, be thankful you don't do any online dating. That's a whole different thing. Thankful that you're married, but but I did meet my girlfriend through online dating, so I have to say that worked out well. But I think it's just having the people around you and that peer support. Even like when guys would ask me for help with their technical problems, and it's like I never saw it as like a hassle, or I never saw it as like yeah, as like a obligation. It's like something I wanted to do, you know, because it's like I realized where you know we've all come from and not having access to those things and not understanding this. It's like guys have a better understanding of where people are coming from, the guys in our program, because a normal student comes up and they have a problem with their computer or whatever, like you know what to say, you know, to address it. But with somebody who's in the program, it's like guys will feel more comfortable coming to someone they know when they have problems like that. Because imagine like going to you know some IT help desk somewhere and saying, "Yeah, how do you like send an email?" You know, they look at you with like you got you know two heads. But so just being able to serve people like that, people have helped me throughout my incarceration, be able to kind of pay that back in some aspect of that peer support.
I would say, as far as peer support, I like to give kudos to Kelly, because when I actually can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. When I transitioned, I remember I found my way I mean, I'm familiar with Baltimore. I grew up here all my life. So I got to the library and I'm like, everything's changed. Different things are in different locations. So actually, prior to my incarceration, I was accepted in the University of Baltimore. I spent a little bit of time on campus, but it had changed drastically. So I get there and I'm like, every time I was like, I would text Kelly through Teams, and I'd be like, well, how do I get to XYZ? Where's XYZ? Where's this? Where's that? And he would like, without any kind of hesitation, any kind of attitude, he would just help. Sometimes I would text him, I'm like, I don't know how to download this file. I'm confused. He'd get on there and walk me through it in Teams. So I'm very, very appreciative. I had support from him. Dr. Cantor, I remember when I first transitioned, her sitting in the Department of Social Services with me, getting benefits. I mean, she's sitting there with me. I'm like, wow, so I can honestly say I felt supported, and I still feel supported.
I think the one reason why, um, peer mentorship is important is because of relatability. Coming out into society, I don't know about most people, but I felt like nobody could relate to what I was going through. So when we came together, people who I was incarcerated with, or people whom I was incarcerated with, it was therapeutic of sense, because sometimes the pain that you go through in there, you don't want to express it, or you can't properly find the words to express it. But when we come together as a group, we can actually look into each other's eyes and see the pain that we've experienced. Without saying a word, it's like we understand. And when you're around people that simply understand your struggle, it allows you to be free to be yourself, not put up any facade or camouflage who you really are. But seriously, you can talk about your pains, you can talk about your struggles, and know that they can relate. And two minds are better than one. Three minds is better than that. So when you come together as peers, putting our minds together, we're able to help each other overcome any problem that any of us might face. People who haven't experienced what we've experienced can't necessarily do that, as much as they have the empathy and want to try. That's why it's so important that we mentor each other.
Thank you, guys. What can communities do to actively support individuals re-entering society beyond just formal programs?
I'll say just give people a chance. Give returning citizens something to get passionate about. While we're incarcerated, I know it's like we had factories there, we call them the shops, and it's like it was kind of like it was labor. We were paid low wages. A lot of people disagree with it, but it's like the facility where we're at. It's like that was like everybody. I mean, the majority of people tried to get into those shops because like the money, although very low for that environment, it was it would help you take care of yourself, send some money home to your family, like those kind of things. But it gave people like some people they gave them an identity, like they really got into what they were doing, because like Thomas and I worked in the textile factory, and we're sewing uh incarcerated person uniforms, and it's like ironic because we were making pants for correctional officers as well. So it's kind of that was perfect irony there, but 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 it gave people something to focus on, and like I said, like most people are not gonna come home and get a job, you know, sewing clothes, but it gave you like an identity, and gave you something to not to say look forward to, but something to do every day, something to get into every day. So it's something that like communities can do is give people a chance, because like guys who have been incarcerated and they come home, it's like they're not going to look at anything that's below them. It's like they're not going to look at like a job, I'm not going to do that job that's below me. It's like people will like develop passion for things and they'll do things as best they can, and they'll really get into things and really take things seriously, because it's like it's more than a job to us, it's like it becomes, something that we're looking towards the future. I mean, it might be a job that we like, but we're going to give it our all because we know something better is going to come out of it. And I think just, this community is kind of just playing a role in that sense of being welcoming and, giving people positive things to do that's going to help them with their development.
If I can piggyback off of that, working in a sewing shop, what can the community do? We worked in the sewing shop, and there's a wood shop there. There's a tag shop there that makes all the state tags. And one time I had an opportunity to get the annual report. And in my shop alone, the shop that Kelly and I worked at, they made $4 million profit off of our backs, right?
Mhm.
Now, MCE is Maryland Correctional Enterprise.
Enterprises.
That is a state-owned company, right? We can work for the state while we're locked up. But when we come home, why can't we get a state job? It makes no sense. A state job would afford us the opportunity to have a living wage and the benefits necessary for us to be able to, stabilize ourselves and provide for our family. Why is it that we can work for the state while we're incarcerated and not work for the state when we come home? That baffles me.
I'd like to say something too on that. As you guys both know, I worked in the wood shop, so I worked for MCE too. And I remember in my transition home, I asked for a reference letter. And when my supervisor wrote me a reference letter, he put my ID number on there and insinuated that I was an
Yeah,
inmate.
it's like,
And I said, how in the world am I going to give this to someone to try to establish work history? I said, there's no way I can do it. I thanked them for it irregardless, but I did not use it. So in a nutshell, they do have some transitional services, but I think individuals who work inside, there should be some kind of way where they can get references where it doesn't, the stigma of having been formerly incarcerated actually impacts you. I think our community could do more around that because many of us incarcerated, we didn't work for MCE. We worked in the kitchen. I know prior to me working for MCE, I worked in the dietary department. So some of us there, we learned various things, how to keep temperatures of food, how to prepare food, how to store it, et cetera, et cetera. So why not give us references and things like that that doesn't kind of like show that we were formerly incarcerated. So I think that's one of the ways in which our community could help us by putting pressure on the correctional structure, or whatever you want to call it, or the prison industrial complex to kind of change that.
is the thing like before I was there, it used to be called State Use Industries. Then they changed it to Maryland Correctional Enterprises. So it's like putting State Use Industries on a resume sounds a little better than Maryland Correctional Enterprises, because that's like a red flag right there if people look at your resume. But I'm not sure why they changed it.
Thank you guys all for your insight and infinite wisdom. I would like to turn it over for some Q&A for our last 13-ish minutes.
Yeah, good timing. I was like, how am I going to get in right now? Because there's like this conversation is amazing. Right? I knew it was going to be amazing. I said it was going to be amazing. Here it is, right? This is stuff like I have an iPad here and I've been just taking down notes and it's like 4 pages, right, of stuff that you guys are just chucking out. I'm going to be at NCHEP, obviously. Some of you are going to be at NCHEP, so I'm excited to see you guys there and be able to like talk more about this type of stuff. And hopefully you talk it out to other people as you meet them, because this is what needs to be shared, right? One of the questions was from Samantha, which was, How would you advise transitioning individuals with transition planning? What should they consider as a realistic 30, 60, 90-day plan? I'm going to add my own part in there. Does it need to be longer than that, right? Like I think 90 days, I can barely even plan my own life in 90 days. So yeah, I just want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think?
I would say the first 30 days, what you need to do is get all the administrative stuff taken care of. That is your identification, any kind of benefits that you're able to receive. Begin to, prepare your resume as best you can, register for school, all the administrative stuff that you need so that can kind of give you a good foundation by which to propel yourself forward. The second 30 days, I would start either going to a workforce development program or continuing in your education. See if you can get a work study program where you can work part-time with that will help to sustain you financially while continuing to look for other employment. The 90 days, I would work on things such as establishing my credit, making sure that I get my bank account up and running, create a good financial literacy program for yourself. I want to save such and such so that by the time I reach month 6, I'll have this much money to where I could buy a car or I can, whatever the case may be. After that, I think it's important for you to be able to, if you're single, get your own apartment. Begin to take on those responsibilities of manhood or womanhood. And for women, which we haven't talked about, which is equally important, establishing relationships with your seed, with your children, trying to rebuild bridges that you may have burnt, because those relationships are going to be paramount to your long-term success.
If I could just mention about like our reentry program that we kind of do on our inside. So we have Latanya, our reentry coordinator, and she has brought in kind of like resume classes, money financing classes. And a few of the guys have all heard me say, reentry should start at the point of sentencing. Your life shouldn't be put on pause. And I've seen that it can be kind of difficult for people to express their needs, especially if you're kind of put in front of someone and you're meeting them for the first time, and now you have to explain to them that you don't know how to handle money. So in our program, we like to make sure that we're there for our students so they can build that open relationship with us, so they can feel more comfortable coming in and saying, when I get out, I don't know what I'm going to do for housing, or I don't know what I'm going to do for a resume. Just having that space and having that trust and openness with your students really helps it.
I would like to comment on that. One of the things in the first 30 days, I think, and this hasn't been mentioned, is the mental health component. The anxiety. Sometimes being incarcerated, you see things that are abnormal. You see things that are absolutely abnormal. And these are traumatic things that need to be worked on. Having therapy, I know me, myself, I had therapy, and I was able to kind of like debrief. So I think, and going also, I think that your trajectory, you should really prepare prior to those 30 days coming into 60 days. Go to your library, find out what's going on when it comes to resumes, resume writing, interviews, and things like that. Also, in Maryland, we have, of course, I think it's a nationwide thing, One Stop. Now, I don't know if it's going to exist with the current administration, but try to find resources. Another thing I would say is that in the first 30 days of incarceration, in conjunction with getting mental health, getting established mental health, decompress. Because having been incarcerated for so long and being confined, it's going to take you a while. You need to be able to go out in nature, walk, breathe, get air, mingle with people, because that environment, you are stuck in this a tier. You're stuck on a tier 90% of the day. So, the relationships that you have are not very diverse. So I would say just there's a need to come out, decompress, get mental health treatment, focus on those things first, and then start to gradually take on more responsibilities. Within the 30 to 60 day period, you should be getting yourself ready for potential jobs, getting into workforce development programs and things like that. By 90 days, you should already have your driver's license. I mean, not your driver's license, your ID, your vital documents and things like that, so that you can find housing, et cetera, et cetera. But I think what's more important than anything is this planning, adequate planning. And that planning begins before you become released, and just execute.
And also, we're plea for y'all to say, like it starts at sentencing, but also like you need to develop habits that are going to make you successful on the inside before you get outside. Because it's coming home, it's like you're going through a change, but it's not gonna. If you're not developing those good habits before you get released, it's gonna be a lot harder to get them while you're out here.
I appreciate all that. Yeah, that's why I would say feel like it needs to be more than 90 days, right? I fully agree with the comment of should start when you get your sentence, because this is a process, life-changing. Another question we got was from Paresh, which is, what is your advice for justice-impacted individuals finding apartments? Many rentals conduct background checks and have non-refundable application fees.
I appreciate that question, and I would like to answer that if you don't mind. How that's the present day redlining. It's the 2.0 version, the landlord's edition. Landlords literally discriminate against you as a result of your criminal record. Right now, this is the legislative session here in Maryland. I just spoke before the Senate. I'll be speaking before the House on the 25th of this month regarding House Bill 514, which is the Fair Housing Act here in Maryland. And I'm telling them that it is outright discrimination. With New Jersey, they just passed a fair housing bill, and we use that as a blueprint to ask the Senate and the House to be able to pass a fair housing bill here as well. Right now, their look-back period is about 7 years. We're asking for it to be no more than 3 years. We want to be able to be in a position to have our own house. Now, they don't discriminate against people with criminal records when you go to buy a house, but when it goes to renting, they do. And oftentimes, that's one of the steps that's necessary till you get to purchase. So, yeah, we're fighting legislatively for that.
As far as that, I mean, I honestly can say that there is discrimination. When I came home, I rented a room, was involved in a program that actually helped with housing for those formerly, incarcerated. But when I began because I was in a room, it was like being in a cell again. I appreciate having that, because I didn't have to lay my head on the street somewhere. But I mean, ultimately, we have ambitions and we want to grow. And so when I started to apply for different apartments, I would pay the fees. At that time, I had been out for actually over a year, or right around a year. I had established credit. I had income, stable income, but every time I would apply, they wouldn't give me a specific reason, but I'd just be denied. I'm like, this is crazy. My credit score is good. I have income. So I proved that I can pay back. I can pay my rent. And, you know, it's very discouraging. I think, Thomas, I would support you in trying to help, you know, change the legislation in the state of Maryland, because it's definitely a need for that. Because without stable housing, that's like a foundational thing.
Mhm.
How do you find meaningful employment, right? If they say, well, where can we send your paycheck? I mean, it's crucial.
Yeah, I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like
Yes.
literal
Exactly.
basic need. All right, yeah, there's so many more questions. I warned all the panelists here this is going to happen before. We're all nervous about like, oh man, it's an hour. How are we going to fill up the time? I was like, we never have enough time, and unfortunately, that's the case here too. So those of you that are coming to NCHEP, I highly, 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 highly encourage you to grab some of these folks here, and then like let's sit down at the table and keep this talk going. All right, this is important conversations. Thank you guys so much for actually like popping up here, being
Thank
able
you.
to jump over all the technical hurdles to get here. Anything really important conversations. Definitely great information shared out. I really appreciate it. I'm just from the chat alone, I know everybody else appreciates it as well. So thank you guys. We'll have another community conversation coming up at some point. Keep an eye out on all of our social medias for that. There will be a recording for this as well. Share that out everywhere. These words, this experiences, all of this needs to be getting out to everybody. So that's it. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.